Hey guys, it's Charity. Welcome back to my channel. I am so glad that you're here. Today I'm going to do a follow-up video to the video I did 3 weeks ago titled ADHD and the Public Schools. It was a very raw, real, emotional, it was a lot and I know it was, but I think that it was needed. It was a way of being transparent and honest about what it is like to be an ADHD mom trying to advocate for the best services that your child can get, and the school's falling short, quite frankly. That being said, I wanted to do a follow-up video to that. So kind of an ADHD in public schools 2.0, if you will. But it's an honest opinion and transformation of my perspective and my husband's perspective in order to get the best help for our son. So the first thing is that he is still in the public school. We really feel like it's needed. We really want him to have that connection and social aspect to really help build on his confidence and his ability to communicate and things that he is struggling in or that he is lacking or is slow to progress in developing, like certain social skills. That is a very common thing for ADHD kids. So we really want to do our best to keep him in the public school. That being said, they do not have the resources, the know-how, the knowledge, or the skill on any level of the public school system, at least in the state of Oklahoma, in truly being able to help children with ADD or ADHD. That's just a fact. Knowing that, I realized that I'm going to have to bridge the gap, because even though my taxpayer dollars are paying for this institution and this education that my kid is entitled to, and because of the Disabilities Act in the 1970s, he is really entitled to accommodations because of his ADHD that are still not being really met, if I'm honest. We did have a great conversation with the head person for the district over all of special needs and special education. Really great conversation. Probably the most optimistic conversation that I've had thus far. That being said, I'm still waiting on the assessment to get done. They have a time frame that they can work within, and I understand that their lives are busy, but I'm still waiting. And so it's one of those, at least hopefully something's going to happen. But yeah, it's just a real frustration. You know, it might be somewhat unrealistic because there are rules and other things they have to do, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm optimistic that something might happen with that. By law, they have to. I've signed the paper. They are required by law to do it. So fingers crossed, I'll fill you in on that when that happens. However, last week was spring break for us in Oklahoma, and I took it upon myself to really dive deep. My son is going to be with me. Both of my sons are going to be with me all day. And I said, I'm going to take the initiative and figure out what I can do to help them. So a couple weeks ago, we ordered Hooked on Phonics, which is a really popular, very well-known, you may know it, program to help your children learn how to read and spell. I remember being exposed to it a little bit as a young person myself, and I have to tell you, I'm very happy with it. You know, they guarantee that your kid will learn how to read, and it's been very, very nice so far. I see confidence building in him, the skill set and the way that it's intriguing him and it's capturing his attention. He's doing it and he's doing it well. So I'm very hopeful that we will see great progress as we continue with the program, Hooked on Phonics. That being said, I have had to really push for an IEP on reading. I don't know. I'm still waiting to hear on that, but that's okay. I'm going to give them their allotted time to get their stuff done. I realized that I'm going to have to teach him how to read. And I'm not an educator. I'm very thankful that I have educators in my family My mother and my sisters have been fantastic at giving me resources, trying to help me come up with unique ways to communicate things to him, help him remember things, because working memory is a major problem for children with ADHD. They cannot recall and they have no foresight. So it's very difficult for them to remember things. And I see this especially with the sight words. He is supposed to have about 200 sight words for the state of Oklahoma by the end of first grade. He's supposed to know 200 sight words. He, as of January, knew 60 something. So it was another area that I knew he was struggling in. It's because he cannot consistently recall what the word is. The reason it's called a sight word is because it is not a word that you are going to be able to sound out. It's something that you should be able to just say the moment you see it. That's why it's called a sight word. That requires memory. And what did I just say about working memory for ADHD kids? It's really, really a difficult hurdle for them to jump for that specific executive function to be able to retain long term. So I would see him do a lot of knowing and getting a lot of the words on the list, and then the next day or later that same day he would miss some that I know without a doubt that he knows, but he would still miss them. And so this is the challenge, right? The school is not going to take the time to actually teach your child how to do this when they're struggling to catch on with the rest of the class, as evident as the evidence is my kid. That being said, I decided to really dive into sight words with him this week, and we did so much. And like I said, my family was great at giving me tools and fun ways to kind of help engage him, to trigger things that might help him remember. And I saw great strides this week. The other thing that I will say is that I let him move. If he wanted to stand up, sit down, kind of look over here and kind of move around or walk back and forth right in front of me, I let him do it. I gave him the space to move. Now, he wasn't jumping on, furniture or climbing on the table or poking at his brother and things like that. There were rules, obviously, a parameter, but I allowed him the space to move as he needed to move. And something amazing happened. He followed along, he knew where I was, and he answered almost every question correctly. What does that tell me? It tells me that if given the ability to move the way that he needs to, he is learning. And so at the school, they are probably having him sit still across the desk from the teacher to be assessed. They're having him sit still and focus on sitting in his square on the carpet, right? All these different things at the table. So what's happening is he is having to focus so hard on just sitting still that he's not going to be able to learn about anything. He's not going to follow along because he's doing nothing but, I don't want to get in trouble, I got to sit still. Oh, she got on to me again, I got to sit still. So when I provided a space for him to move the way that he needed or to get some of that energy out the way that he needed, he learned. So that's something I'm going to be taking to his teacher and educators that are of influence in his life. The other thing is I really wanted him to build confidence that he didn't have to look at, say, something like a sight word that he knows is a struggle for him, that he has predetermined that he doesn't know, as a burden. So I tried different games, and we took breaks. We took lots of breaks, so that way it wasn't like this huge brain dump of stuff that I expected him, to be able to get. I didn't want him to feel overwhelmed in that way. The other thing that I really dove into this last week was sensory exercises. Sensory is when your child has heightened needs or sensitivities to one of the or all of the 8 senses that we have. And that's really been powerful for me because I've realized that he is avoiding or seeking out different needs because his brain is craving it or is shunning it. And so we worked a lot on vestibular, which is sense of movement, which is big for ADHD because they don't have this sense of groundedness. They don't have a sense that they're grounded, and so they can't really help but move because it's chaotic to them. So we worked on that, and we worked on interoception, which is the sense of the inner organs. So basically, like, am I full? Am I hungry? When I'm potty training, and for my son specifically, the emotions, because he is very heightened avoider of emotions. He panics. He has borderline panic attacks. He is borderline depressed as well, and he doesn't know how to explain or really get things out. And so we worked a lot on sensory exercises, and I saw great strides with how he responded to me and how I'm able to respond to him. I'm better able to communicate with him. And that's the key, is that he is struggling to communicate with you because he doesn't know what he's feeling. He doesn't know what's happening. And so we have to create tools and methods and strategies to take the feelings and the things going on in his brain, make them tangible that he can touch and see, so that way we can all help better give him the things that he needs. And then he feels heard, and then he feels respected and appreciated and valued. And then he's able to grasp ideas and develop and grow and build confidence that now he's capable of doing really great things. And so we spent a lot of time this last week doing that. And my view of the school is that, like I said, I don't want to take him out of the school for the social aspect of it. Not right now, anyway. But I can serve him better than they can. And that's just the truth. So I am going to incorporate all these things that I worked on with him this last week over spring break into our daily lives. So different nighttime routines will be adjusted so that I can incorporate some of these sensory things. I've been able to help with calming. We're working on breathing techniques as well, because when he has his panic attacks, there's no stopping it. It is hysterical, tears, short breathing, like exactly what you expect out of a panic attack. And he's shaking and he doesn't know how to stop it. And so we worked a lot on learning how to breathe. We did breathing exercises. We did some kind of like yoga, meditation, fun games, just to kind of see how he would accept that kind of. And that's a little iffy. I still am going to have to do some work on that and see if that's going to be something he's really going to be receptive to. Because when it comes to sensory specifically, you can never force your child to do something. Because if he is scared, like let's say, for example, he's scared to ride a bike because he doesn't have the vestibular balance and he panics. If I force him on the bike and I say, no, you're going to do this, and he's scared, that's a loss. It goes for anything. If it's light, if it's taste, I'm a picky eater coach. If it's taste and you're forcing your child to swallow or forcing them to, take a bite or whatever, if it's an oral sensory issue, that's awful. We can't do that. We cannot force them to do that. So I did a lot of that investigative work this week with my son, like I said, with the interoception, the internal organ feelings, and the senses of movement, and just really trying to get a grasp on where he's at. That being said, he went back to school yesterday, and I told his teacher that we were doing the Hooked on Phonics and that we were working on the sight words and all these things, and I was doing sensory work with him just so that she knew, hoping that I would get a response back of her opinion, like, has she seen a difference? Is there any progress being made? And she sent me a message at the end of the day and said that he had done his sight word evaluation. And when I picked him up from school, he gets in and the first thing he says, Mom, I did my sight words today. And I was like, what? Because that's not how we usually communicate about sight words. It's usually dread and panic and tears and no and rejection, right? And I thought, okay, something's happened. I was like, what do you mean you did your sight words? And he said that I did my test for my teacher. And I said, how did it go? And he goes, I did really, really good. And here I go with I get emotional. When your child has a horribly negative perception of anything about themselves, especially, and then you hear confidence and you hear joy and excitement, there is nothing better than that feeling, because it's a spark of hope that he's going to be able to reframe the neurological pathways in his brain to understand that he can do things, that he is smart, that he is able to do whatever it is that is hard for him, that things that might be hard at first, like sight words, were not easy for him. They don't come naturally to him. Math does. That he can still do it. And that is priceless, because I cannot even tell you how I pulled up to a stoplight after I picked him up from school, and I just sat there and I thought, I'm going to sit here and cry, just sitting in the car, and he's talking to his brother, and I thought, a little glimpse of confidence in an area that he feels insecure in and that he struggles in is amazing. So his teacher told me that she did do his assessment, and as of January, he was like 60 something, 62 words, I think, is what he knew. And at the end of the school year for first grade, so by May, for the state of Oklahoma, he's supposed to know 200 words. So I knew he was really behind. I mean, he didn't even have all the kindergarten words. And so I was nervous about what she was going to say, but to have such a positive response from him, I thought, okay, something has happened. And she said that he went from essentially 61, 62 words to 91 words. Like, that's huge. He's still obviously behind because he needs to know 200 and he now only knows 91. But you see the progress and the ability for him to have confidence, to get a little spark of confidence inside of him, and hopefully take it so much farther than I even could imagine that he would want to take it. So as a whole, I still stand by the video that I made 3 weeks ago. The emotional, the frustration, the anger, all of it, the heartbreak, it's still there. I'm still battling the powers that be with the public school system. But I am optimistic that maybe after my last conversation, something will happen. But understanding that I can do this. I think I was scared that I couldn't teach him. I think I was terrified that if these people who have the calling, like it is a calling to be a teacher, if these people who have this amazing calling can't teach him or don't know how to teach him, how in the world am I going to be able to teach him? Someone who I don't even know how to teach him the phonics. Like, I've realized that I am not even smarter than a first grade. Like, I'm just not, okay? And I realized that I am going to just have to buckle down and do it. Find the resources like Hooked on Phonics. Do the things that great, amazing women in my life have been able to share with me and from their experience as elementary school teachers, and just knowing that he can do it and that I can meet him because I'm willing to step up to the plate. I said this in the last video. I'm going to swing at every single thing that I can possibly swing at. And no, the school's not going to step up. And it's heartbreaking, but I'm going to keep swinging. And so my husband and I have seen great progress. We've changed a lot of the things that we do, like with our nighttime routine, to incorporate the breathing and the sensory and different things like that, to incorporate really, really grounding things that will now become habits. And that's the whole point with ADHD, is that because they are delayed in their neurological development and things are just always going to naturally go awry, we're redirecting the thoughts. We're creating new neurological pathways to limit the risk of that diversion and that natural instinct that their brain wants to take, so that he can instill methods and habits that will carry with him forever, for his whole life. So I'm optimistic. I wanted to share that with you. It's all part of the process. I think that in any situation, as parents especially, but with life in general, we go through ups and downs and we hit roadblocks, and we've got to be honest and open about it. And if we're not transparent about it, then everybody feels like they're alone. And as an ADHD mom, I think it's important for other moms and people who are not parents of ADHD kids or have ADHD loved ones to understand and have an inside perspective shared, so that you can better respect, fight for, advocate, and understand, and quite frankly, give grace. Because Lord knows, me as the mom, I need a lot of grace, and those kids need grace because they can't help it and they don't understand what's happening. And so we have to keep fighting for them so that they then will be able to fight for themselves. And that's the main thing. So I hope that this has been an encouragement to you, that you can have a rough patch like the video a couple weeks ago, and then come out with new perspective from that and come up with solutions and strategies and find the hope that is in there to give your child the glimmer of possibility, of chance, and of confidence that they can do it. So I will chat with you next time. Thanks for listening.